Good morning, PMappers, and to our dear viewers. Welcome to the most awaited program here in PMAP, the People Manager on Cam. This is the online show of the People Management Association of the Philippines, or PMAP, the premier organization of HR professionals, people managers, and leaders in the country. Thank you for joining us once again in this morning field learning about people, leadership, human resources, innovation, and business. My name is Lawrence Ko, Head of Learning and People Development of Mondenisan, and I'm going to be your anchor host for today. I'm so excited to be with you this Wednesday morning as we have an exciting episode lined up for you. For those that are going to be, if it's going to be the first time that you're going to be tuning in People Manager on Cam, each episode is dedicated to insightful discussions about, of course, human resources, people, and business. This April episode is our second episode for this year, 2024, focusing on rest and recreation. For some of you, perhaps you're already calling this workplace well being. But regardless, this would provide us an opportunity to have meaningful conversations on what is vital and critical importance in your people processes in the business, specifically, particularly on current issues that are non negotiable, such as innovation, inventions, breakthroughs, or even regenerative transformations that we must look forward to so that we are up to date in supporting the people in our organizations and eventually the business of our respective organizations. So join us and stay tuned until 12 noon. Feel free to connect with us by sharing your comments or questions in the comment section. If you're joining us via YouTube, you can, of course, go to the comments and then share with us some insights or questions. We're also live via Facebook, and if I'm not mistaken, we're also live via LinkedIn. So if you have any questions, you have insights, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions or perhaps anecdotes from your respective organizations, you might want to put them in the chat so that we can have a conversation later on. I know that you're all excited, so let us now get the ball rolling. This month's essential topic, as I've mentioned earlier, is rest and recreation. And we've got a must talk or a must discuss line up for today in terms of the questions that we have prepared. Joining us to talk about this particular topic is the Senior Director for Wellness Plus Resiliency of TaskUs. And I'm very, very excited in terms of the insights that she's going to be sharing with us for the remainder of the session this morning. So let's give a big round of virtual applause to Vina Paglicawan. Good morning, Vina.
Hey, Law. Hello, PMAP. Happy to be here.
There,
Thank
there.
you. Thank you
How
for
are you doing
inviting
today,
us.
Vina?
I'm good. Started my day at around 7.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
so pretty good. Doing
Fairly
well.
early, fairly early. But I'm sure, no, this usually yung mga viewers natin, mga listeners natin, no, they usually block this time off, no, out of their busy schedules, no, out of their hectic schedules and workloads, no, to really know more, no, about how they can improve yung mga proseso nila, no, and then at the same time, no, get best in class, no, best in industry insights. And I'm sure they're very excited to hear from you today, Vina.
Yeah, happy to contribute.
Okay. So of course, no, the first thing that we usually ask our guests now, and we're very excited to have you today, would be to perhaps give us more insights, no, some insights about what you do in TaskUs, and perhaps, no,
Mm,
you might also use this opportunity to give further introduction about your organization.
yeah. So TaskUs, if you have not heard of us, we're a business process outsourcing organization. We have 10 sites in the Philippines with more than 50,000 employees across the globe. So our base is in Texas. We have our headquarters there. And yeah, we have around 20 plus sites across the different parts of the world. So what do I do? I'm senior director for wellness and resiliency for Asia. I lead the team in Asia of around more than 50 coaches, mental health professionals, practitioners, and we take care of the well-being, specifically the mental health well-being of our employees. I'm not sure if some of you would remember me because I presented also in the PMAP Cebu conference. So yeah, happy to reconnect with some of the people who were there in my in the concurrent session that I did in PMAP. So yeah, we that's what we do. We take care of our employees' well-being, and I've been in TaskUs for it's going to be 4 years in June already. Yeah, I was a pandemic hire.
And I'm pretty sure, no, na the perhaps a good majority of our listeners, no, would have one have already heard about Task Us, and then second, no, perhaps were able to join us in the PMAP AC last year in Cebu. So
Yes.
if this is going to be the second time or perhaps the third time that you're going to be listening to Vina talk, no, please share in the chat so that we can read them, and then later on we can also perhaps read some of the comments, no, and insights that you might have. I'm sure Vina will have some additional comments, no, to add on sa mga anecdotes ninyo.
Yes, and
There.
uunahan ko na, mag-apologize na ako, Lo, if they're gonna be hearing me say the same things over and over again for the second, third time. Sabi ko nga, I will never get tired of speaking for the employee well-being and how we as organizations should really prioritize
Mhm,
our
mhm,
employees, no? Parang ano, I know I'll be preaching to the choir, but sometimes it's a matter of remembering, not
mhm,
forgetting, and
mhm.
being reminded of how important it is.
That's right. That's right. And I think it attests, no, na the things that you've been sharing really are indeed best practices, kasi they can survive, no, yung year on year na changes in the organizational requirements, no, and of course the needs of our people. So very very excited to ask them again, Vina. I have a couple of questions, no, for
Nakabahan ako ah.
prepared
Couple
for
of
today.
questions. Okay.
Yes, yes. And these questions would usually come, no, from the conversations that we've been having with fellow members in PMAP, no. Kasi as you would know, this has been like workplace well-being, hot topic yan eh, no? Even
Mhm.
prior the start of the pandemic, and nag-peak ulit yan when the pandemic started, no? And then right now, it's still an ongoing conversation. So I have a couple of questions coming from our members, no? And we're excited to hear some of your thoughts and insights, no, about these. But before that, no, I just got curious about the logo that you have in your virtual background. Perhaps
Mm.
we can spend some a couple of minutes, no, just
Mm.
knowing more about that.
Yes. Is it the right way? Are you seeing it the right way? Minsan kasi it's inverted. Minsan
Yes,
naka-flip
yes,
yung
I'm seeing it. I can
right.
on one side I can read wellness hero. I am a wellness hero.
Wellness Zero, yeah. So, Wellness Zero is actually very, very special to my heart. Very, very specific also to Tasca. So, what we've done is that we have formed a community of wellness advocates in the organization. So any regular employee may sign up to be a wellness hero. So in order for them to be a wellness hero, they have to go through specific courses in our learning platform. So the courses speaks of mental health. So they have to take the courses, just for them to be more familiar with the courses, and then they take an assessment. So they need to
Mm,
pass the assessment, right? So that's their gatekeeper, union clearance. And when they finish the course and pass the assessment, they now become legit wellness
mhm.
heroes. So as a wellness hero right now, we have more than 1,700 across the
Oh
globe
wow.
who have actually hurdled past the exam. And what they actually do is that it's a it's a community where employees who signed up actually, dalawa yung statement na sinasabi nila that I am taking responsibility for my well-being and I am going to take care of others too, right?
Mhm.
So yun yung two strong statements that we make sure that they know and remember as they get into the program. And when they get into the program, we train them further. Psychological first aid, we have specific sessions for them. We talk to them about how do they talk about mental health, how do they encourage others to seek help. Kasi the wellness heroes naman are not counselors, they're not coaches. They are employees who have said to themselves and who have declared na, I will take care of myself. And what they actually do is they reach out to employees that they think would need help and support. And then they bring them to the right channel. No? Kasi in TaskUs, we have multiple channels. We have internal coaches. That's my team. And then we have vendors, right? We have employee assistance program. We have psychologists also, licensed psychologists. So, based, for example, I'm a wellness hero. Tapos ikaw, Lon, notice ko, you're not in your usual self. No? Kasi my team, we're just 50. How can we
Mm.
possibly take care of all the employees? Thousands yan, di ba? How can we even know who needs help? So ako, as a wellness hero, I reach out to you. For example, hey Lo, I noticed you've not been yourself lately. Are you okay? No, so that's an opportunity, a space for a really safe conversation. And for example, you say, parang ang bigat, medyo nasa-stress ako masyado sa work. No? And maybe in my own capacity, because I've been trained already, I can open up conversations. And then I make a choice. I remember my training and I would say, Law, gusto mo, you sign up in the platform. Do you know how to do that? No? So, si Wellness Hero, alam niya kung saan dapat dalahin si employee. Alam niya kung anong tulong ang pwedeng makuha ni employee from TaskUs. Kasi sometimes, employees don't ask for help because they don't know what to do. They don't know who to ask for. But when another employee approaches them, mas open sila usually. Mas nagsasalita sila with to another peer or to another leader. So yan ang wellness hero. And our goal, my personal vision, and this is also the team's vision, is that all 50,000, 47,000 employees of TaskUs would be wellness heroes. That's going to be a strong statement for us to make as an organization.
Thank you for sharing, Vina. No, I didn't know that was a very comprehensive program that you have in TaskUs. No, I mean 1,000 wellness heroes, and given the comprehensive then no the process that they have to undergo no and are expected of them is no joke.
Yeah.
It's a big number no of colleagues that are equipped no to help out fellow colleagues no in the organization. And at first akala ko parang it's just branding no
Mm,
of TaskUs, but very surprised na it's that I won't say complex no pero in a sense ganoon eh laki ng coverage niya no. And just from that alone I'm sure some of our listeners and viewers no already had an idea of perhaps what could be a good program that they could
yeah.
initiate no, following best practices of TaskUs. So thank you for sharing that, Rina.
Thanks, Law.
So I would just want to recognize no some of the comments that we have. So we were greeted good morning by Henry. So good morning, Henry. Henry is tuning in via LinkedIn. So if you're also tuned in via LinkedIn or via Facebook or via YouTube, now feel free to join us in the chat. Share some thoughts, share some insights, or perhaps some questions. No, to Vina. Vina will be answering some of your questions.
I will
So
try.
so, Vina, going back to what I mentioned earlier, no, about some of the questions or perhaps lingering concerns of PMappers, no, given the context of the spike of organization spending for health and wellness or for rest and recreation initiatives during the pandemic, no, our members are interested to know, no, given that you have a lot of offices across the globe. No, so you might have had insights no, of what we call perhaps informally state of workplace well-being no. So now that we are post covid no siguro one of the questions that people are asking no is spending towards health and wellness initiatives going down, or perhaps there might be some trends that you might want to share with our fellow PMappers.
Yeah. Thanks, Lona. Siguro before, or maybe I would move away from the concept muna of cost. Unahin ko yung needs, right?
Mhm.
So, to your point, in the middle of the pandemic, we heard a lot of concerns about mental health, about well-being. And then after, I wouldn't really say after, right? Some would say that we're still in the middle of the pandemic. We're still in the middle of COVID because there are still cases. Hindi na nga lang ganun kadami, right? So post COVID, for lack of a better term, I'd say there is still a need for well-being. Medyo nag-iba siguro yung flavor, but the need is, I would like to acknowledge that the need is still there. Because if you remember, and I'm sure a lot of our HR folks would be able to connect with this, post COVID, a lot of organizations started to regroup, diba? We've heard a lot of organizations who have restructured. We've heard a lot of organizations who have transitioned, right? Alam natin yung iba noon, we could not even think of a world where work is done at home.
Mhm.
But then COVID reminded us, hey, pwede. Then, and then post-COVID also, we saw a lot of work also being what do you call this? Being transitioned to artificial intelligence. Nakita din natin yan. Nakita din natin, apart from companies regrouping, restructuring, we also saw, unfortunately, a lot of redundancies, right? We saw a lot of organizations maybe even saying, oh, you know what? We don't need this job or this role at all. Pwede naman palang i-condense or pwede naman pala itong i-outsource, right? And as a result, we have employees who probably lost work,
Mhm.
right? The Of course that's unfortunate. Okay? Some employees also had to shift careers. Some employees had to transition out of the workforce. I also remember that a lot of my friends have moved to the provinces. No?
Mhm.
Kasi sabi nila, pwede naman pala itong gawin from the provinces. So essentially, they changed work, right? And of course, with the redundancies, attrition, the transitions, usually nakakalimutan natin dyan yung naiwanan ng trabaho.
Mhm.
Yung dumami yung trabaho because another role has been added to their current role. Okay? So now, a lot of studies are also showing that we have a stressed workforce. Dahil mas dumami yung load or naiba yung trabaho. Or altogether, iba na yung ginagawa nila. Or maybe another job was given to them. So with that kind of scenario, and of course sa Pilipinas, alam naman natin ang favorite topic natin, traffic. You know? In
That's
fact,
right.
in fact, may mga employees akong kakausap, not necessarily in TaskUs. Sabi nila, medyo dumoble yung work stress, then dumoble din yung stress going to work. No? Especially if you're a commuter. No, maraming nabago sa commuting patterns natin. At mahal na din medyo ang transportation ngayon. Especially if you're taking what do you call this, yung ating mga dedicated transport services, right? So, having said that, I'd say the need is still there. Maybe it has changed, right? Maybe the requirement has changed, right? Pero nandoon pa rin yung need for a supportive environment where mental health and workplace well-being is a top priority. Now, are companies spending more or less? Depende kasi law on what they are doing to
Mhm.
support the need. Diba? Alam naman natin that there are some progressive organizations who have probably already suddenly, no, meron na silang EAP as a result of the pandemic. If before the pandemic, they were not even having EAP or Employee Assistance Program, just to make sure the abbreviation is calibrated, no? Baka mamaya hindi pa masyadong aware yung ating audience on that. So after pandemic, I've seen organizations sign up for employee assistance programs. I've seen organizations also hire well-being consultants, well-being coaches. We've seen organizations double up on their counseling availability ng vendors nila. Dumami na rin yung mga apps, no? We also
Mhm.
have HMOs offering also physical well-being, yung mga coaches, so that they can help their employees regain and even maybe refocus their well-being. So siguro, as long answer to your question, for those organizations who have made the decision as a result of the pandemic to invest more in well-being, baka they have more spending now. But
Mhm.
I would also say that there are some organizations that may have spent something on workplace well-being during the pandemic, pero after COVID, okay, tapos na, wala na tong programa na to, and maybe they're not spending anymore. But I'd like to emphasize that Now, kahit tapos si pandemic, there is still a growing need for us to take care of our employee well-being. And I'll never get tired of saying that.
That's great insight, Vina. No, thank you for sharing, and I think that would also validate some of the experiences, no, of our fellow P mappers. Kasi ako just personally, no, I've seen in the just the last couple of months, we were able to see perhaps a longer list, no, of potential third-party partners, no, or vendors that are providing, no, services that were not existent, no, prior to the pandemic. So your insights validated some of my experiences, and I'm sure some of our listeners and viewers would also have that, and it's very critical for us in PMAP and our members to get these insights so that we can have conversations that would go much deeper when we talk to our executives, for example, or our partners in the line, yung mga line managers natin, mga people managers natin.
Yeah.
So the last part of your response very very critical and a really good reminder for organizations, especially for those that are working in human resources and are really at the forefront of pushing these people programs. So thank you for sharing that, Vina.
Yeah, totally agree. Because our department started 9 years ago. We didn't start in the middle of the pandemic. So the Wellness and Resiliency Department of TaskUs has been here for the last 9 years. To your point, ang dami ng providers now. We remember, you know, 8 years ago when we were looking for vendors, wala kami mahanap. No, na local ha. Right?
Mhm.
And even foreign vendors, we were also very careful because back then the majority of our employees are in the Philippines. So we wanted a local provider. We had to even convince back then existing providers na hindi mental health to extend mental health services to us. And then during the pandemic, siguro mga bandang 2021, 22, wow, ang dami ng providers, which is great. Kasi now our organizations would have better, more options rather than being confined with just one provider, diba? So
Mhm.
it's really there is a need, to your point, a growing need, and I think a lot more and more a lot of organizations and vendors and potential vendors who are trying to set up are realizing that.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. And so paano para isa pala kayo sa mga pioneer clients who's asking and who have started the demand for such EAPs, no? Kasi marami na nga rin mga employee assistance programs wherein it's just plug and play, Parang in the past you have to get the vendors and then you have to formulate your own EAP. But now, no, we've been seeing in our emails, no, and some of the calls that I've been participating in. It's a plug and play EAP. So just get them onboarded, and then they just do everything end to end, which is amazing. And hearing that you've been doing this, like even before the pandemic, perhaps would give encouragement to our listeners and viewers that maybe they can also start there. No, can you hear me, Vina? Okay, okay. I think I
I
got
kind of
mute.
lost you for a bit.
Yeah. So there. I was saying na it would give you mga listeners and mga viewers natin parang additional case in their programs para to get more support more business and executive support to continue getting these programs in their lineup of support for their employees. So thank you for sharing that, Vina. Now, Vina, perhaps we're still in the same I'm still on the same topic of demand, so demand, and we were talking about earlier organizations having that demand in the external marketplace, but on the same topic, how are employee expectations, so are they expecting a similar number, perhaps in terms of like quantity, or even quality of company sponsored or company driven workplace well-being programs,
Mm.
kamusta yung expectation nila, kamusta yung participation even, are people still participating, or are people now looking for other means, to improve their wellness well-being without really being reliant to the programs that we've initiated during the pandemic. What are your insights about that?
Yeah. So based on what you said, I'm actually hearing two things. Sabi mo, um, how are employees' expectations in terms of mental health and well-being? The second thing I heard was about participation. No?
Mhm.
So let me maybe tackle first the expectations, right? So I've seen a lot of studies. In fact, I've been, because in my LinkedIn profile, I follow a lot of those studies. I've seen a lot of studies where the expectations and of employees of their next organization or the kind of organization they want to be part of, or maybe even expectation nila sa current company nila, is that a company that puts employee well-being as a priority. Very glaring yung study na yan, no? Middle post-pandemic, yun yung nakikita ng maraming studies when that was not even mentioned prior to COVID. No? Before, it's about stable culture, high-paying job, a great leader. Now, added to that list, no, they're still there, pero very glaring yung moving up. Parang
Mhm.
first or second choice siya even about how the organizations are supporting their employees. So we can see there what the real expectation is of the employee, of the market, no? Yung ating employees who are looking for their next organizations. In fact, our recruitment team would sometimes tell me, no, that when employees ask them or when candidates ask them, what benefits do you have? When our recruitment team would say, oh, we have internal coaches, they would be very interested, no? May counselor po ba? Or aalagaan po ba kami? Meron, alam na nila yung EAP ngayon, ah. Dati
Mhm.
walang employee, walang candidates na magtatanong na, may EAP po ba? Ganon. So, wow, nagugulat yung recruiters namin now. Meron pa nga daw minsan nagtatanong, yun po bang mental health act ginagawa ng kumpanya nyo? Wow. No? So, in terms of expectation, when it comes to awareness, kamalayan, meron na eh. Meron silang certain expectation because they already know
Mhm.
what they need. The second part of your question is, post-pandemic, are employees still participating dun sa mga employee well-being programs? Now speak for TaskUs, and maybe other our audience or other organizations can chime in. I've seen that yung need namin ng pandemic, okay, are now different. Iba na yung need sa mga employees namin. Okay? And we also had to shift gears. We also had to do some transitions in our programming. Because pandemic, lahat virtual. No? Post-pandemic, when our employees started to go back on site, may mga naririnig-rinig na kaming comments, pagod na po kami sa virtual. Pwede pong
Mhm.
on-site naman, no? So what we did was that we still kept the virtual because we have what we call, as an example, we have a virtual quiet space where we just open our Zoom and people who work from home, employees who want to join us from other locations can just enter the room and we do guided meditation. 5 minutes. No? Parang come in, go out. Ganun lang yung gagawin ng employee. Log in, pasok, labas. Simple. Our coaches lead the meditation.
Mhm.
Pero sabi ng iba, pwede pong magka-online, on-site version. You know? So, there are times in the day that, we just open our meditation rooms, and our coaches are there. Whoever is available can join in the meditation and then they can continue with the rest of their day. Right? So, in terms of participation, we really do not have a way to compare. No, mas mataas ba, mas malaki. Pero kasi when our employees started to go back to work, we also changed our programming. Na binago na rin namin yung programming namin to accommodate the changes because we still have employees who are working from home, but we also have a lot of employees who are now on site. No? Even the topics, no? Binago na rin namin. And also, we follow monthly themes also, no? No, ganun kami
Mhm.
Ganon kami ka-intentional when it comes to
Mhm.
mental health. So, for example, there are months that we speak about trauma and the brain. There are months like since April is autism awareness. We just
Mhm.
had our programming on understanding autism and how can you help each other. How do you know someone has is in the spectrum? No, for as an example, and how do you accommodate that person? Kasi hindi naman kami nagdi-discriminate and hiring people with autism eh. And even some of our candidates would declare, I'm in the spectrum po. Ganon ka-open yung conversations, you know? And our recruiters are aware that they are not to discriminate people, no? Lalo na we also appreciate people who declare, I have a diagnosis po. Ito yung diagnosis ko. We welcome them, right? As long as they can do the job and do it well. Yeah? So, ganon kami ngayon nag-shift ng programming namin. May
Mhm.
on-site and meron ding virtual.
There were a lot of insights from that response, Vina. No, so even at the applicant level, no, as you've been saying, they are now that aware, no, and are conscious of the value, no, that workplace well-being programs or employee wellness and the well-being programs, no, hinahanap na nila. No, nandun pa lang sa applicant stage. No? And of course, once they're already in the organization, of course, they would be asking for them. And I don't know if I've encountered other organizations that would also have like meditation rooms. So it's a
We
good thing
have
that you were able to mention that, no? Because I think going into the conversation perhaps of like spending, there might be organizations, as you've mentioned, no, that they would want to continue their commitment, no, to supporting workplace well-being, but they're now at the stage of trying to identify, okay, what then could we do, how can we use our resources, no? And
yeah,
perhaps that concept, no, of having a meditation room
yeah.
could be helpful, no, especially for the mental well-being and wellness of our employees.
Thank you for highlighting that law, no? Kasi minsan, we have organizations na akala nila they need to have a department like us. That may not be the need, no? And I'm not here to advocate that you set up your own department. No wellness, well-being, kanya-kanyang need yan. And also, it really depends on what this organization want. What can the organization afford? You started the question on spending, because keeping a department like ours is not cheap. Because we hire professionals, we hire certified individuals. I'm a credentialed coach myself, right? So we need licenses to keep this one going, right? And hindi yun ang priority, maybe, or hindi yun ang need, at hindi yun ang kaya ng ibang organizations. When you highlighted na let's do it with what we have, no? And part of that would be existing spaces that we already have, practical in conversation. I was just listening because I always listen to American Psychological Association, my podcast sila, no? I would strongly advocate for you guys to listen to that Spotify podcast. The title is Speaking of Psychology. No?
Mhm.
Every week they have guests who speak of really practical applications of psychology, HR, OD, and everything. One of my favorite podcasts there talked about how we can convert existing spaces to spaces that would support mental health in communities, in organizations. Providing a special place where employees can just converge, gather, and maybe not talk about work and just
Mhm.
relax. Ang laking bagay, no? Putting some plants, putting a grass carpet, having some bean bags there, where employees would just feel safe talking to each other. Ang laking bagay. We just really have to be creative. And I really appreciate that episode. It's really challenging us communities, no, to think of how else can we create spaces where employees feel safe and feel connected and get connected with each other. Sobrang laking bagay. Speaking of
That- that- that-
psychology, that's the
mhm.
podcast.
Speaking of psychology, sige, I'm pretty sure no na note 'yan ng mga viewers and mga listeners natin no for additional further reading and further listening no or viewing after our show today no. So Vina, it's I think I want to just further re-emphasize what you mentioned earlier no that at times there really is a need for practitioners no people managers and human resources practitioners no to take a step back and do an introspection of where we are as an organization. No? Kasi as I know some of them already got excited about some of the initiatives that you were sharing no? With TaskUs. And and what you've been mentioning no is that organizations no would need to be honest with themselves of where they are right now in terms of like maturity no like could na baka baby steps pa lang no yung kailangan nilang gawin but they have to start somewhere. And then of course more mature organizations like us like TaskUs no can now afford no not just in a financial sense no but perhaps culturally no kasi that's what I've been hearing people are open in your organization no employees and your recruiters alike no so very great to see that no na it's not really just a matter of copying no the best practices but really having a particular mindset of identifying what would best fit your organization depending on of where you are no right now in a particular maturity continuum no yeah. So thank you for sharing that, Vina. Perhaps one of the things I've been wanting to ask this kasi you've been mentioning this for quite a few times now, no, would be the concept of internal coaches, no. And you mentioned that you're a credentialed coach yourself, no, and of course, PMAP has been partnered with ICF Philippines, no,
Yes.
this year. And we want to know more no like perhaps you can share some anecdotes no some stories perhaps of how internal coaches no could help further push for employee well-being in the workplace.
Yay. If my coaches actually, no one in my team knows that I'm doing a podcast right now. Okay. I just have a DND, a do not disturb in my in our group chat right now. And I would love to be able to share the link with them later. So this is a major shout out to all our life coaches and taskers, right? So these individuals, the men and women who actually comprise my team, was very instrumental in how our employees were able to thrive, maybe even in the middle of the pandemic. Okay, our coaches, the major, I would say there are two major things that my employees or my coaches are really trained to do. One is to conduct individual coaching sessions. So their days are filled with appointments. Either they do it face to face or Zoom, right? Because they're also professionally trained. Can I mention
Sure,
our
sure, of
great,
course.
training company, right? So we are actually trained by Haraya Coaching. All our coaches, even our global coaches, are trained by Haraya, right? In Coach Masters Academy, their partner in Singapore. So they're trained to do transformative coaching, right? So one on one, that's one of the work that they do. The other major thing that our coaches do is facilitate psychoeducational group sessions because it's not enough that we are well. That's why if you notice, yung department namin is not wellness department or well-being department. It's important for us that people are also resilient. And when
Mm-hmm.
we say resilient, hindi ito yung misused word natin mga Filipinos na kahit nahihirapan tumatahimik or kahit nahihirapan bumabangon. No? Well, that's part of it. But when we define resiliency in TaskUs is that we provide or we teach our teammates, we call our employees teammates, by the way, we teach them resiliency skills, right? So that they would know what to tap on sa sarili nila when they encounter difficulties. I'll give an example. I just talked about we teach trauma and the brain so that when they're exposed to a challenging situation, they know how they can leverage their brain. Alam nila yung function ng brain. And we keep on telling them your brain only has one purpose, it's to protect you. So when they understand how the brain functions, they're now able to use it to their advantage. Would love to believe that every time they attend those sessions, they learn, they remember, and they apply. Sana, no? So we give them opportunities to apply. And every month we have a different theme. We teach them cognitive control. We teach them emotional containment. We teach them the value of sleep. We teach them healthy eating. Karen is asking, do we teach financial wellness? Yes. We have a month dedicated to talking about financials. Right? So we look at all of those things that they can tap on kasi naniniwala kami that the individual is whole, creative, and resourceful. Alam niya kung anong kailangan niyang tulong. They just need to be reminded, for example, that breathing is important. And we teach them the right way to breathe. So, yung mga bagay na yon, those are the things that my coaches teach our employees, right? So, yun yung ginagawa ng mga coaches namin. And one thing that I'd love to be able to say that really helped them is that they do a proactive checking in with employees na sa tingin nila parang nahihirapan, right?
Mhm.
Or kailangan ng tulong. Kasi they keep a close connect with the leaders in operations. At doon din papasok si Wellness Hero. Kasi hindi makikita ng 50 coaches yung
Mhm.
nangyayari sa lahat, diba? So, we will need the help of our other employees. Yan. Sorry, ang haba.
Yeah, well, that's greatly appreciated, no? So connect talaga siya, no? So
Yeah,
the
dikit-dikit talaga
programs,
yung programming, no?
no,
And
the 50 coaches that you have.
yes, and we actually have other coaches in North America, Europe, and Latin America. And because my coverage is Asia, I say 50, but total number of mental health professionals would be more than 100, including our counselors, our vendors, psychologists, and psychiatrists. So lahat yon globally tulong-tulong kami. Pero hindi kaya ng 100, 120, yung 50,000 people. Diba?
That's right. That's
So,
right.
hindi namin yun kakayanin. And that's why we focus on those two core tasks, right?
Mhm.
Talking to them individually and, of course, having sessions with them, right? And checking in. May proactive check-ins kasi.
Thank you for sharing that, Vina. No, and I think for some of our listeners, this might be the first time that they've heard of an organization wherein these competencies are in-house. Kasi very common sa atin to just fully outsource these things. No? And then hearing that for TaskUs in Asia, 50, ganun kadami kaagad, no? That are would have the necessary competencies, no, credentialed, accredited, licensed even, no? And we can really see, how having that commitment, from the organization would have great impacts to our employees. So thank you for sharing that.
Thanks, Law. Can I do a shameless plug also?
No worries at all. Ano tayo, sharing of best practices tayo.
Yes.
So we would
I
gladly hear.
actually I actually need right now a senior manager for Cavite area. So if
Mhm.
you're listening and you have a background in psychology and leadership and you're able to handle a huge team of coaches from Cavite, we need you in TaskUs. Mabirata pa yan, no? Yeah. Mental health might be something you want to do next. So join my team. Thank you, PMAP.
Great. So that's for your Cavite site. Okay, great. Thank you, Vina. No? And good thing that you were also able to answer, the question of Karen. No? So thank you, Karen, for tuning in. No? So Karen is in Facebook and ask us about questions on financial wellness. No? So thank you for also responding to that, Vina. Yan, I now go to my third and perhaps last question. Medyo napasarap yung kwentuhan natin eh. And
Oo nga, ano
I
ba yan?
know
Ang bilis.
marami pa tayong pwedeng pag-usapan.
Oo, part 2 ba to? Part 2 ba?
Pwede tayo mag part 2, no? And when you mentioned earlier, Haraya, no, sila Jackie, no, and even Coach Jack, no, I think they've been in the show. If I'm not mistaken, they've been in the show. Jack, no, Coach Jack is actually part of the BMC, no, Branding Marketing Communications Committee of PMAP, no, and she's also been one of the hosts of PM on Cam. So we're very much, have also interacted and have partnered, with such great coaches in the show. No? So thank you for also mentioning that, Vina. Now, bago tayo maubusan ng oras, no, going to my third question, perhaps for TaskUs, no, or maybe in your industry, no, kasi given how big you are, no, you might have a good chunk, no, of market share in your industry, no. What do you think would be some of the things that you realized stood the test of time? No? So perhaps rest and recreation or workplace well-being principles, no, that have worked in engaging your workforce pre-pandemic, no, during the pandemic and post-pandemic. No? Meron ka bang mga share sa amin, no, na time-tested ika nga na mga initiatives or principles, no, that we might want or that we can consider, no, raising to management, no, providing more resources for.
Um, Siguro I'll mention two. Number one is that have a good balance of preventative and reactive care for your employees when it comes to well-being and mental health. When I say reactive, eto yung I need coaching, I need counseling now. Yeah, we're just reacting to a current need. I'm so burned out, I'm so stressed, I need help. We value that. We want employees in our organizations that would tell us what need they want or what support they need right now. Okay, that's reactive care. But there's also so much value for organizations. So sabi mo nga, what has worked for TaskUs? Not just reactive care, but preventative care. And dito papasok yung group sessions that we teach resiliency skills to our teammates so that when the time comes that they need help, alam nila that it's here. Nandito yung faculties. May agency ako to help myself. Right? So when we say preventative care, we teach them, we educate them. For example, simpleng-simple. When our teammates understand how breathing is important, sometimes when they become anxious, you would see them just closing their eyes and just inhaling and exhaling. No? We also taught them how vagus nerve is very critical to calming them down. So hindi weird that you'd see some employees massaging the back of their necks or ears kasi alam nila this is a major point for the vagus nerve. Hindi weird na makikita mo yung employees na nagkukulong dun sa safe space namin and just keeping quiet. No? Pre-pandemic, meron kaming virtual reality goggles. Hindi mo na namin pinapagamit. Ayaw ng facilities. Kasi hindi siya magandang gamitan for now. Baka magpasapasahan ng mga viruses. But some employees would borrow that and just may mga meditation and yoga kasi sa loob na nakaload dun sa virtual reality. So preventative and reactive care it works for us. That's number one. Okay. The second thing I'm going to highlight is that what has worked for us also is beyond what my department does in wellness and resiliency is the fact that leaders actually are the culture champions of organizations. And it's very important that leaders allow psychological safety and champion and demonstrate psychological safety in their organizations. No? Ano ba yung psychological safety? Psychological safety is an agreement in organizations that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to apologize. It's okay to speak up. Okay? And it's okay to ask for help. When leaders encourage psychological safety, baka hindi nyo na nga kailangan talaga ng mga katulad namin. Kasi the leaders themselves would be talking to their employees, having meaningful conversations with them. Baka you just need us to train the leaders, which is what we do. We just equip the leaders. Hey, what is psychological first aid? This is what you say when an employee comes to you. Because again, we have thousands of employees. Ang first stop dapat niyan leaders. So when leaders encourage conversations, when leaders encourage safe spaces, when leaders are okay with their people taking leaves, minsan hindi maka-leave man lang ang mga tao or binabawi ang leave. So paano naman magiging okay ang mental health ng mga tao kung leave ko na nga, tinatawagan mo pa ako? Diba? So what I'm saying is, leaders actually, sila yung dapat nagpa-promote ng mental health or nagpa-promote ng safety in organizations. Diba? And we have a lot to do about that. No? As HR practitioners, we need to equip our leaders. No? And I'm not going to say that all our leaders in TaskUs are doing that. We continue to educate them. We continue to equip them. Right? Mahirap. Kasi it goes with leadership. No? Some people signed up for leadership without even realizing that they actually are supposed to take care of others, unfortunately. Diba? So yeah, let me stop there and maybe you have something to say. No?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good reminder, Vina, no, that at the end of the day, no, we hindi lang siya trabaho, ika nga ng HR, hindi lang siya trabaho ng mga professionals in the well-being space, no, but really, no, every leader has to have that hat, no, has to wear that hat, that they themselves, no, should be the champions of resiliency, should be the champions of health and well-being, no. And that's again a really good reminder, no, so that for us, majority of us would be coming, no, by that I mean our listeners and viewers, no, would be coming from the HR practice, no. So it's very important that we put as one of our top agendas, no, how can we equip then, no, our leaders, so that they would be empowered to also do that, no, for their respective departments, no, and their respective teams, no. And that's really really a very important reminder that you just shared, Vina. So thank you for that. Perhaps given that we're just 5 minutes, no, we're at the top of the hour, no, and just to give this time for you, no, to share any perhaps call to action, no, or parting words to our PMAP members and even non-members alike, no, because we also have non-members that are tuned in, no, to our various social media channels, no. So what call to action, no, can PMAP members take, no, so that we can, or do rather, no, so that we can take better care of the Filipino workforce, no? Any parting words that you have there?
Mhm. And I think it's always my theme. I just said it, siguro i-emphasize ko lang, no? Kasi for me, there's nothing more important than for every organization to remember this. Minsan we try to complicate, or marami tayong masyadong iniisip, well-being, wellness program, setting up department, and then we end up not doing it kasi of the cost.
Mhm.
Diba? We get discouraged. Ang laking trabaho. Meron bang ganong makahire? Or how do we even sustain that? Yun lagi yung iniisip ng madami. So I just want to encourage and invite and maybe even challenge the HR practitioners, and to your point, even non-HR people, maybe CEOs listening today. You don't have to have a department like what we have in TaskUs. Maybe this is not what you need, right? We have this because we believe in the value of having this, and we've been doing it in the last 9 years. I would instead challenge you to look at your culture, revisit the leadership practices that you do in the organization. Challenge even how you do things in the organization. No? Simpleng-simple. Leave approvals. No? Do employees need to do multiple approvals para lang maka-leave ng one day? Think about it. Or do we have auto-approved leaves that they don't have to explain to anyone because they're too ashamed to tell someone what they're going through right now? And may leave credits naman ako, baka pwede ko namang auto-approved para lang ma-save yung face ko to share with you something I'm going through that I'm not ready to share. Simpleng-simpleng respeto and confidentiality sa tao. No? Which, by the way, if you go to the Mental Health Act, we're now being asked to have mental health leaves. Right? So, revisit the simplest process or leadership practice that we have and challenge yourself. Are we adding to the stress of our employees or are we supporting them? Are we making it easy for them to work or are we making it difficult for them to even show up at work? No. I strongly believe that our Filipino workforce are very good individuals and I believe they deserve better workplaces. Naniniwala ako that they deserve better and that they deserve more because they have so much to offer, right? And I'll leave you with this thought na nakakatuwa kasi in my previous talks, lagi kong sinasabi to. And then I met at least two people in some of the events that I attended. And sabi nila, there's one thing you said that has resonated with our CEOs and our HR people. We have two CEOs kasi, co-founders sila. They're both Americans. So one thing that one of them said the most that stuck with us in the team is this. There's always a cost to doing something and doing nothing. Decide today which one you would invest in, which one you would pay for in the future, right? And we have kept that. Mental health is expensive. Mental health programs is expensive. Hiring a team is expensive. But we'd rather invest now than pay the cost down the line. So I hope that made sense to a lot of
Yeah, very, very powerful insights. No, thank you so much, Vina, for your time and for all of the things that you were able to share. No, in the last hour, of course, on behalf of the your fellow members in PMAP, no, and of course from the people manager on cam team. No, we'd like to extend our thanks to you. No, we've gained a wealth of knowledge from your insights, and yun nga, I hope that we can have a part two. I know we're just barely scratching the surface now on the topic of workplace well-being, no? And hopefully we can have much bigger and better venues and avenues to discuss this in more detail together with our fellow PMAppers. So thank you once again, Vina. Great,
salamat
great.
lo.
Maraming salamat, Vina. There, no? And that concludes our discussion. I know, bitin, no? I know marami pa tayong pwedeng pag-usapan, no? And I promise, no? We promise on behalf of PMAP, no? That we're going to have more discussions, no? Of this comprehensive takes and discussions, no? On the things that we can do, no? In our respective organizations so that we can further champion, no? And push for the people agenda. So once again, thank you so much for joining us for the last hour. That brings us to the end of this month's episode, and we trust that you've gained a wealth of knowledge. No, and until next time, stay curious. To all our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in with us. Tune in again next month. We have a program for May for the latest topics and discussions in the people management world. Again, my name is Lawrence Ko, Head of Learning and People Development of Mondinis Incorporation, and this is People Manager on Cam. Good afternoon, everyone.